I'm attempting to do my first envelope. I think they call them security envelopes because it has that little twine. So right now I am cutting a piece of paper. I used 32-pound presentation paper to print out this beautiful design by Antique Papery. And I went ahead and trimmed it down to 9.5 by 3.5. And then I did the first score at 4 inches for that flip up. And then I went ahead and scored maybe 1/4 of an inch away from the top of the flip up so that I'd have some room when I flip down the top. I didn't want it exactly touching. And then I decided to use the same paper to make the side gussets. I'm trimming them down to 3.25 by 3.5. And then I'm going to score them on the 3.25 side. I'm going to score them 1/2 inch 5 times. So that when I do fold them up, I will have a little bit extra, and I just trim that part off. You can use any kind of paper you like. I just wanted something kind of strong. I'm afraid to use cardstock sometimes because I don't want it tearing when I bend it. But like I said, you can use whatever you have. And also I want to mention these are not my ideas. They never are. I have watched techniques from many talented people, and I've written down instructions. And when I can remember who I watched, I try to add them in the description box so that you can watch their videos because they are much better done, as tutorials. These are just kind of process videos so that I can remember how I made something instead of searching through thousands of saved videos, for when I want to make something. So I'm trimming off the corners, diagonally so that they just don't show as much when you glue them in. And I am using Distress ink and Vintage Photo to draw the edges. I've been wanting to make these for the longest time, but I just was afraid I'd mess it up somehow, especially, with the circles. But I wanted to do something different today. So that always indicates I'm about to sew around it. And I wanted to reinforce that top flip crease because it's going to be used a lot. And I was, deciding whether to put the washi tape on the inside or the outside. And I just wanted to break up the design a little bit on the outside. And I used some glue to make sure it holds over time. And I am using a 1-inch hole punch. I punched out 2 from the pretty paper and 4 circles from lightweight cardstock. Now those 2 punches are going to be used to cover the brads that I'm about to use. And you use any glue you like. In this little bottle I put some of Eileen's tacky glue, and I added some water so that it wouldn't be so thick, so it'd come out of that thin nozzle. And so I'm attaching 2 cardstocks together, and then I'll attach the decorative paper on top. And I find every time I try to squish them together, they move around. So you see in a second that I just put some Mod Podge, a bottle of Mod Podge on top to squish them down in place. See, those bottles are good for more than one thing, right? So, and of course I inked around the edges, and I'm going to ink around the edges of those circles that are going to go on the inside to hide the brads. So I know I have a punch that is a teeny tiny hole punch, and that you'll see me looking for that in a minute, so I'm sorry for my shoulder, because the awl didn't go through the cardboard nicely, starting to bend, but I couldn't find the punch. So then I decided to see if my crocodile, the 1/8 inch, was too big, because I didn't want the brass to fall through, but it was the right size. So that's when I decided to use it to punch the holes in the circles. And then, of course, I used it to punch the holes in the paper. I'm just marking where I want to place the holes. When I was attaching the brads, I wanted to make sure they were nice and flat, but I also didn't want it too tight so that I couldn't attach the string around it later. So I'm just using art glitter glue to attach the inside circles to cover the brads so that things don't get stuck on them. You could use whatever glue you have. I just know the art glitter glue dries quick and really attaches well. So when you're attaching the gussets, I was indicating, look for the 3 folded side, and that side's going to be facing the outside. And I'm being mindful not to get too close to that crease where I fold up the flap. And I didn't want to get too close to the edge, just inside the edge, just a smidge, so that when you do glue everything down, the gussets aren't sticking out. There's just nothing wrong. I mean, my gussets stick out on my belly. So, I just try to make it somewhat, nice looking. But I also don't try to be too perfect, because these are junk journals, right? So that's always the tricky part, not getting your hands too glued while you're trying to flip that part over and making sure everything lines up nicely before you really press it down. You could have used whatever color paper for the gussets. I just thought since I had that left over, I'd use that. And now this is the fun part. I made it so much harder than it had to be. First, I'm doing the left over right, right over left, so that you have a nice square knot. And it's sometimes difficult for my little fingers to do it. But attaching the charm, oh my goodness, it was ridiculous. The struggle was real. You'll just laugh. Trying to tie the knot, trying to decide where I wanted it to be, and I've seen other people tie it a certain way, and I couldn't fit my charm through the knot, so I gave up on that, and then I just cutted the string down a little bit, and this part is silly. It's never this hard until I do it and I film it. But I didn't want the charm to hang down below, and yeah, I was just struggling. I was laughing the whole time. Yeah. And so there I have it, pretty much where I wanted it. And I just cut off the excess. So I will try to find the original video, and I hope you enjoyed. Go ahead and make one. Don't be scared like me. Bye-bye.